Alrighty folks, video time. Just wanted to talk about dis-ease theory a little bit today and what really makes us sick. This is quite a timely video as the last week and a bit I've been going through what I like to call a elimination event. Most people would probably say that they're sick. They've got an infection of some sort. So I just thought I'd take a little bit of time to explain this a little bit, as I'm losing light very quickly and I don't want to drag this on too long, although I could easily talk about this for probably a couple of hours. So just going to explain a little bit what happened to me and what I know to have triggered it, which is basically poor dietary choices, and that's the case with most illness and sickness. It's just a build-up of mistakes. It usually takes around 50,000 mistakes over a lifetime, 1,000 mistakes a year for most people for something bad to happen, something chronic, something life-threatening even. But for me, it was just a lot of snot. I have a history of sinus and head issues, so it's usually the first thing to crop up when I do something wrong. I go against nature's laws. And what I believe triggered it was a few dietary decisions, as I said, namely cooked sauces or store-bought sauces with a lot of salt and other added condiments. Sugar as well, although not quite as bad. The salt is definitely a big one. I remember calculating the amount of sodium because I was having a whole jar of this. It was a mango chutney actually, and it's quite remarkable when you eat a lot of raw foods, you happen to urinate a lot, and most often get up in the night at least once. After having a whole jar of this chutney and other sauces, I didn't have to get up at all. And normally I'm urinating well over a litre during the night. I routinely lose over a couple of kilos over the night. So yeah, it fluctuates, but around there. I measure this pretty much every day, so I keep track of it and I know these things. And when I have a lot of salt in these sauces, instantly it gets absorbed into the body and it sucks up all that moisture out of the GI tract and the urinary tract, out of the bladder, and result is extreme dehydration, basically, and it's immediately noticeable. So I think that over a long enough time period caught up with me and my body decided to clean house effectively. Sure, there were other things that weren't ideal that I indulged in leading up to this, but I think that was the straw that broke the camel's back. So it's important to keep track of these things. If you really have to, if you're just starting out in this and you want to prove this to yourself, which is what I'm very big on, if you follow me, you'll know that. To know this for yourself, you need to keep track of it and ask, what was the last thing that I ate before this started happening? And that's not going to be the single cause, as I touched on. It's an accumulation of mistakes coupled with genetic weaknesses, which can be discovered through sciences and practices such as iridology, where you can actually see your genetic weaknesses in the eyes, completely non-invasive and pretty much 100% hit rate if you know what you're looking at. These two things combined will show you exactly why you're going through what you're going through. It's called dis-ease for a reason. It's uncomfortable and you're going through an elimination. You don't feel well, you're unwell. People more than 100 years ago knew this. They didn't think it was some outside malevolent entity invading their body. They hadn't been chosen. They hadn't won some demonic lottery where the prize is becoming possessed and seemingly being attacked from the inside out. That's not the case. That was originally popularized by one Louis Pasteur, which is where the pasteurization process comes from. And really all it is the killing off of bacteria. It's the same principle and line of thinking as antibiotics, which is probably one of the worst things you could do for your body. Anti meaning against, and bios, biotic coming from bios, which means life. So it literally just means against life or anti-life. Everybody knows to some extent that our body is full of bacteria and microorganisms, and we require these little helpers so we can live. Without them, we're toast. I don't know how true this statement is, but some sources say that a 2-week course of antibiotics takes 2 years to recover from. If you know anything about the lymphatic system and how our body rids itself of acid wastes and byproducts of cellular activity, bacteria is extremely important. Our lymph nodes are the septic tanks of the body. And if you know anything about septic tanks, they have a lot of bacteria in them to break down the wastes. It's the same with the human body. So what do you think popping antibiotics is going to do to your body's ability to eliminate wastes? Not too good. So anyway, you just need to start thinking a little bit critically. Monitor what you're doing, where you go, who you interact with, what you interact with. Most importantly, what you put into your body. Everything we interface with is going to affect our health in some way. And there needs to be a continuous cycle of ingesting these chemicals and expectorating them. What we breathe in, we need to breathe out. What we eat needs to be pooped out, etc., etc. What we put on our skin needs to be sweated out, excreted out, urinated out, you name it. Dr. Morse likes to say, what you don't eliminate, you accumulate. And what you accumulate will eventually agglomerate, which means to harden and eventually burn. That's when you get your cancer-like symptoms, your arthritic symptoms, any sort of pain really. All has a foundation in acidosis, which is lack of kidney filtration and lymph stagnation. So to offer an alternative to this germ theory, which was initially popularized by our friend Louis Pasteur and has since been promulgated by our friends the Rockefellers. There was another scientist named Béchamp, and he was more of the mind of terrain theory. Start thinking of things as internal terrain versus external terrain. What are you allowing into your body that's going to disturb the natural order of things? When you start to monitor this, you'll see that it easily starts to make more sense. And once you start taking responsibility for what you eat, drink, breathe, otherwise ingest, you'll see that everything is your fault. Getting sick is your fault just as much as getting well is your fault. And I think that's the most empowering thing that anyone could ever tell me. Some people may have to be told and have this beaten and drummed into them, but for me, it was a process of making enough mistakes and eventually figuring it out, because my number one pet hate in life is feeling shit. So there really is no other option. So really what it comes down to is really stripping things back to the bare necessities, the simple things, the foods that are going to hydrate you the most, which is fruit and some vegetables, soft leafy greens. You don't have to eat this way forever, but it's definitely necessary in the short term if you have an acute condition that is life-threatening, and definitely if you know you feel an elimination coming on, you probably want to jump on the juicy stuff, stop the salt. That's just going to keep everything at home. Maybe grab some herbs to help your endocrinology function properly, because due to humanity making these decades-long mistakes, most of our organs and glands aren't functioning as they were designed to, not optimally anyway. So that's what they're for. Definitely not necessary, but if you have The cashola to splash is definitely something to think about. If you hate feeling crap like I do, you want to get through these things as quickly as possible. So it's just a tool in the tool belt, something to think about. That's really all there is to say about it. If I'm to keep this short, if you want some help getting through a condition or an elimination, I'm always here. Send me a message, an email, a comment, reach out in some way, and we'll get to healing you. Or at least I can help you heal yourself. It's all about taking responsibility, remember? So that's really all I've got to say for now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.